What's up, fellas? Anything new going on here soon? Riley, got anything on the docket? For those of you that don't know, Riley is a practicing law student as well as a international touring musician, part of an international touring band. And this week he has his finals for law school and he's going on an international tour. So, Riley, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I did way too much this week. No, it's been a heck of a week. We're getting ready to launch our new album, Woven into Ashes, on Friday, May 5th. That's the same day we start a tour in Houston, Texas, and it's the same day as my last law final here in Oregon. So as soon as I'm done with constitutional law, I'm jumping on an airplane and heading to Texas to get on a stage. So
And what are
it's
the dates for those?
what's that?
What is the date for all that?
Mini
What's the
date.
end date?
May 5th is the first show of the tour in Houston, Texas. And then we go through a couple more Texas shows: San Antonio, Dallas, Santa Fe, Phoenix, LA, San Diego, Portland, San Francisco, Portland, Vancouver, BC.
But you're
Through
going to
all
be
of
back in
this,
time for the draft lottery, right?
Like the day before the draft lottery.
through all of this, what have you learned? What's your biggest life lesson coming out of all this? Maybe a little bit broad, but
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just that having a variety of things going on in your life is a good thing. Is one thing that I keep thinking about. Like, it's a lot to have this much stuff going on all in one week, but I think I'd be a little bit more bummed out about, being so deep into the finals if I didn't have all this exciting stuff going on too. And this podcast is part of it.
variety is the spice of life, right?
There you go.
Colton, what do
Well
you got going
distilled.
on?
Well, I just want to say this. The next time you look up in the skies and you think, are we alone? Well, we're not alone, okay? I
Oh
just want
man,
to say this.
full blown conspiracy theorist here.
So we talk a lot about a guy named Victor Wembanyama, okay? He is a freak. He's an alien, okay? But other than him, there's aliens out there. You just got to look it up, all right?
Hopefully, if the Blazers miss on him, we'll get the next one, right? We'll get the next UFO crash
I've just
pilot.
been on a UFO binge lately, and you don't look at the tinfoil hat situations. You look at the credible situations as
There,
the sunlight is blinding me in my office. But you know what? I'm just saying you don't look up the people that are getting filmed on Ancient Aliens, okay? I'm talking about the pilots that are seeing stuff. Just look up to the skies, man.
there is a lot of interesting stuff out there, a lot of legitimate accounts. But yeah, for me, I've been pretty active lately, getting outside a little bit more. It's been really nice out. I've also been training for a 16-mile, 4,000-foot hike that I'm going to do here pretty soon with some friends. So that's what's been on my docket, trying to stay in shape, trying to get ready for that. It's going to absolutely whoop my ass, but it's going to be beautiful when I do it. So I'm excited.
What is that hike?
Table Mountain in the gorge. It's just on the Washington side of the gorge up there, and it is an absolute beast. Never done it before, but it's been on my bucket list for a long time.
Awesome.
So yeah, other than that, I've been watching a lot of basketball. The first round was awesome, especially that Warriors Kings series. Just even if you might not like the end result, which I know Colton did not, it was still a great series, super fun to watch. And I have one question coming out of that series. Well, I have a lot of questions, but my biggest question coming out of that series is, or it might not even be a question so much as like a statement that I'm starting to maybe, take seriously, that Steph Curry might be the best player of our generation. He might be approaching LeBron as the best player in our generation. The dude is just, I mean, he just keeps getting better with age. 50 points, a 50 piece in game 7, just unstoppable. 20 of 38 from the field, hit the threes. But he was also, everyone says, greatest shooter of all time, greatest shooter of all time. That's like old. That's old news at this point. He had like 22 points in the paint was tearing him up at the rim, just unstoppable. It was, as much as I was rooting for the Kings, I can't help but, be in awe of that performance. And I think everyone is getting to the point where they're taking him a little bit for granted. I just wanted to throw that out there that, I think he's right up there with LeBron. Obviously, he's not as good of an all-around player as LeBron, but he does one thing so well and affects the game so much and is, just an absolute game breaker. Actually, he does several things well. Like I said, it's not all just shooting. His shot is what gets him the space, but he's also developed all the other skills around him. It's yeah, he's a hell of a player to watch. And I mean, he could get chipped up again this year. He could be going for his 5th pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the route to another championship, it is not out of the question for them. I think that they're going to have some challenges still to come. I think the next round's going to be hard, and I think it's a lot of talent in the league. But Steph again solidified himself as just an incredible player, and I think you might be right that we need to stop talking about him as the best shooter of all time and start thinking that, maybe he's the best scorer we've had in a long, long while, because he is scoring all kinds of ways and he's leading the team. I mean, I know this is old news too. That's like you said, he just keeps doing it and keeps getting better. But the way that he put the team on his back, and I'm sure everyone's heard, about his speech that he gave. Apparently it was like the best pregame speech, since like Rudy or whatever, where he said, if you're not going to come out and win this game, stay home. Like, don't get on the bus if you're not committed to this. And I mean, he made Draymond not argue with calls. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed. I noticed it through the whole game that Draymond's mouth was shut for him. And then after the game, when I found out about the speech where he said, if you're going to be in your emotions, don't show up, it made sense. Like, Curry told the team what they needed to do, and everyone delivered, at least doing what they needed to do to win. And
especially him, though. I mean,
especially him. He
to
backed
say
it up.
all that, and then drop 50 in Game 7. That's where the money's made.
I think it's a hard argument to make that he's not a top 10 player of all time at this point.
Oh yeah, you can't. I mean, I think he's getting into more rarefied air than that.
We discussed that when we did our top players lists, and he was on a couple of our lists, right? Or all 3 of us had him on.
Yeah, I think so.
I put him at like 9th already, and that sounds crazy
to
any of the old heads out there that think, nah, he's not that good. He's not good enough to be on the top 10. He's really approaching it. He's getting the hardware. He's getting, the playoff success, the longevity, everything. And, it's funny that you're discussing him talking about LeBron. The league got what they wanted.
Yeah.
In a Lakers led by LeBron and a Warriors led by Steph playoff series. That's like all the bandwagon fans in history will join and root for one side. It's crazy. So
bandwagoners unite.
And Curry's still at the top of his game. I'd argue LeBron is not quite at the top of his game anymore. So it's not like the peak versus the peak, obviously, because peak Miami LeBron versus Steph. I don't know. I don't know if it would be tough even for Steph in that matchup, because peak LeBron athletically was something else. But it's going to be interesting. I think the Warriors are going to be heavily favored. Maybe not heavily favored just because the media pushes the Lakers, but I think the Warriors are going to be favored. And it is going to be interesting. Steph, he is fun to watch. And, I was rooting for the Kings as far as I am tired of seeing the Warriors in this spot, but you can't help but say, geez, like Steph is probably the player that when you watch him, you say, wow, the most, because he's unguardable. Like, he could walk down the court and shoot a step back 3 every single possession, and you wouldn't say it's a bad shot for him. Like, from any distance. That's crazy. Like, he can be guarded so tightly, and he can just still get up a good looking shot that almost goes in every time. It's crazy. And you said it. It's not just shooting, but the shooting, like you said, allows him to do it, but it also warps the game for his teammates.
Yeah.
It's crazy that shooting of all skills is what makes his team better. Like, because opposing teams are so scared and how they have to gear their defense. It gives everyone else space because they all have to hedge towards Steph any action he makes. The thing that I think he might be the best player in NBA history at is moving without the ball. He moves without the ball, constant motion, right? And you're like, nah, there's been people that have been better than him, Ray Allen, anybody like that. I don't know.
JJ Redick.
I don't think so. Go look at Steph. The whole game he's running around screens. And the fact that he can just jack it whenever he gets the ball, it doesn't matter how tightly defended he is. So yeah, I think it is crazy. I think he might be the player of this generation. And I think that before Steph was at his peak when he was having his ankle injuries, it was still LeBron's league, but it's been Steph's league since after that Cleveland and Golden State series. When LeBron got that last one, that was big for LeBron's legacy, but I don't know. Ever since then, it's been Steph's.
Especially the last couple of years, he's really stepped up. But I had this thought experiment earlier today. I wonder what it would look like if a team defense just decided to let Steph shoot, like literally just step back and like didn't let, like guarded the paint, guarded all the other players and just let him shoot every single time. Like, I wonder if anyone's tried that and what it would look like. Would he just drop, 80 points? Would he hit every three that he took? It would be an interesting way to approach it because I think they've tried everything else and nothing's worked. And it's like, I mean, I'm not suggesting let anybody try that, but it's like when you do, guard the shot so heavily and get up on him, like you said, it warps the game for everyone else. It allows him to get rid of the ball and then make a quick cut off the ball and get open or get his teammates open, get to the rim. But if you just like play, just basically played 5-on-4 and let him do whatever else, like shooting outside, as long as you didn't let him attack the paint, what that would look like. It would probably be a disaster too. But yeah, I just thought of that earlier today. But yeah, like you said, shout out Kings. They had a good series. I think they have a bright future. Hopefully this doesn't just rip their, confidence in their team apart. Hopefully they're able to bounce back and this is the beginning and not the slow, sad decline. But
let me just say this about the Kings before we move on. Honestly, they played the Warriors as good as any team. They pushed them to a game 7 in their first real playoff action. Sabonis was disappointing, and I really thought that Mike Brown really did not adjust well in game 7. He did not put Davion Mitchell on Steph. He kept Terrence Davis on Steph, and that was not working in the slightest, and yet he kept him out there like that. I think that there was moves that they could have made, and they played the first half really well. They were up 2. Feels like a Blazers game when the Blazers are up at halftime and then just get Stephed on in the second half. But so I think that the Kings had an awesome year, and even though they didn't make the Western Conference Finals, I'm happy with what I predicted at the beginning, because if they would have played a different team, I think they could have advanced. That was probably the toughest team to play in the first round. So
yeah, I think they definitely would have beat the Timberwolves. They probably would have beat the Clippers. I think they would have probably beat the Grizzlies, maybe the Lakers too. The Lakers kind of turned it on in this series a bit. It'll be interesting to see if they can sustain that. We'll get to that later. But yeah, the Kings, they had a great year. They should not be feeling shame right now. I know there's disappointment, but they should try to build on it, because I didn't expect them to be the 3rd seed. Maybe you did, Nostradamus over here, but good on the Kings.
Speaking of tough teams to play in the first round, the Miami Heat finished off the Milwaukee Bucks in the other shocking headline of the first round. The first 8th seed to beat a number 1 seed since 2012, I think, when Philadelphia beat the Chicago Bulls after Derrick Rose got hurt. But that opens up some interesting questions for going forward in the playoffs, but also for the Bucks that I wanted to touch on real quick. And this scenario also I've been thinking about the last few days, which is if the Portland Trailblazers, shout out, if they were lucky enough to get the number 1 pick, would you guys what would you guys think about trading Wembanyama and Shaden Sharp, both of those guys, for Giannis? Is that a yes?
I know what Riley thinks, so
Is that a
let's
no?
let what Riley says first.
Riley, what
Yeah,
would you
yeah.
do there?
I would do it. I would definitely do that. Because I just don't have that much faith in Victor and Giannis. Giannis and Dame would be a championship. Like, oh, I mean, unless injuries. It's always the issue. Giannis kind of went down in this series, and that was a part of the story. I'd say it was the second story behind what Jimmy did, but he did sort of he was battling through something in this series. But him and Dame together, I'd give just about anything we had for it. I'd pitch them Anthony first to see if they bit, but
They ain't doing it. They ain't doing it.
I don't know. The way people talk about Wemby, if Giannis is unhappy, maybe they do it for Wemby and just about anybody. But
they want baby
I'd do
Shaq
it.
and baby Kobe.
Yeah. So I'm super high on Wembanyama, and seriously, you go down the list of players in the league. I would not trade that player if we got the number one pick for anyone except Giannis. That Giannis is the one guy that I would be willing to trade. He's like a potential GOAT candidate according to every single scout that's covered the game. And that could change. You know, that could not come to fruition, but wow, it would really hurt to trade that kind of a player away before they play for your franchise for just any player. I wouldn't even trade him for Embiid, because look at Embiid. He's hurt right now, right? But Giannis and Dame, like Riley said, that's the combo that I would sadly trade away Wembanyama for Giannis. That's the one guy.
And Shaden doesn't even factor in for you.
Shaden,
It's like
Shaden. I mean, obviously, because look, I mean, if you take Wembanyama, I'm not going to get too sidetracked. I'm just going to do this really quick. You have Sharp and Wembanyama, and like you said, not baby Shaq and baby Kobe. Those guys are like generational prospects together, it feels like, and they could grow as a core as your shooting guard and your big. I mean, they're both freaks athletically. You know, they could play both ways. So then you could slot them in right now with your core and be just set right now and in the future. But for Giannis, I would do it. That's the one guy I trade the number one pick for in the entire league, bar none. I wouldn't trade it for Luka. I wouldn't trade it for anybody else.
it would be the ultimate committing to Dame move to make that trade. Because I agree that a Wembanyama Sharp future would almost be more exciting than Giannis and Dame, but it's just that committing to Dame, which we've all said, it's like he deserves it. He's done so much, blah, 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 blah. So,
Giannis would be exciting, though. Come on.
No.
In a Blazers jersey, that would be awesome. Like,
yeah, it would be, it'd be a championship ceiling immediately. And you'd get that gravitation to a bunch of role players and stuff, veteran guys wanting to come play with Giannis and Dame. And it would put Portland on the map for sure. But it's
so would winning the number one pick, though.
The
number one pick would instantly put all the media in Portland without Giannis. But Milwaukee would have to come to the table. Would they trade Giannis? I don't know, but at least that would be the way that you could get him to pick up the phone. Because with our assets, without winning the number one pick, you're not getting a phone call back from Milwaukee. Even with Sharp.
It's a long shot for multiple reasons, because you have to get the number one pick, which is a long shot. And then also, I don't think Giannis is leaving Milwaukee. He's not the type that's going to go out whimpering like that. He was hurt the first 3 games of the series. He feels like he owes something to Milwaukee. He's, about as loyal as Dame is with his commitment to the city and the franchise. So I don't see him leaving. I don't see him requesting a trade. I don't see Milwaukee trading him. Why would they? He's the best player in the NBA. So, I don't think either one of those things would happen, but it is fun, food for thought. But moving past Milwaukee, Miami, man, that was crazy. Probably the most exciting thing I've seen in a while in the NBA. They moved on in 5 against the Bucks, and now they're up a game on the New York Knicks. But Jimmy did turn an ankle, and it could definitely affect the series moving forward. I hope that it doesn't. I hope he's able to get healthy, but I could see him at least missing game 2. But even if that happens, they split the first 2 in New York, and going forwards. They have a real shot of making the conference finals.
I'd say that if the ankle's even sore, they should rest him for game 2, because a split is incredible in this series. And if they can rest him up a little bit, if it is fairly minor and he can be back for game 3 and 4, I think they can probably win both of those at home. And then the series is over, essentially, unless he gets hurt worse. So yeah, I think that's the way to go. I think the Heat look incredible. This is the first time that a 5, 6, 7, and 8 seed have made it to the second round, which is a really exciting first round of playoffs.
It's the first time it's the first time in NBA playoffs where a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 seed have all made the second round.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's parity. That's what they've been talking about in the league for a long time, is trying to get a more equal distribution of talent. And obviously it's not perfect. Obviously players still they gravitate toward each other. They want to go to winning cultures. It happens, but it's successful for the NBA. I would say that I think that this is probably what they had envisioned. I know what they really want is just to see stars play stars, which we're getting, but I think that this was what they had in mind when they started trying to push for more parity in the league. And yeah, we're getting some really exciting second round matchups.
I agree, but sadly, look at the teams that are advanced into the second round. The NBA would be fine probably erasing all the other teams and leaving the teams that are left. They're all the marquee teams, basically. The Lakers, the Warriors, the Celtics, the 76ers, the Heat, all the big markets. And all
I noticed you left out both Phoenix and Denver, both those teams not really marquee, and they're favorites to potentially go to the finals.
True. Phoenix is not a marquee and neither is Denver, but one of those is going home in this series, so that would only leave one left. I'm talking about most of the teams that are in there are big name teams.
Yeah, I don't really
at least it's not 2 LA teams and 2 New York teams. That would have been worse.
I don't really see much of there's some of the gravitation of free agents and veterans and stuff, but a lot of those teams are pretty, home built. It's like the Warriors built through the draft, the Suns and Nuggets both built through the draft largely. Obviously, there's a little bit of alteration there with CP3 and KD came in. Embiid's played his whole career in Philadelphia. Obviously, they got Harden in free agency, but I mean, he was bound to attract a free agent of some kind. Boston's completely built through the draft. I mean, they traded away, the big three, I guess, 10 years ago to get all these picks, but they drafted well. So I don't know. It's not necessarily like I don't feel like the league is stacking, in favor of big markets necessarily. I mean, the Milwaukee Bucks were the number 1 seed coming in. They were the favorite to get to the finals. All 3 of us picked it, and they're a pretty small market team. And again, it's with a superstar that's stayed there his whole career, was drafted there. So, but yeah, give me that New York Miami series all day. That's going to be a fun one to watch. Those teams both kind of rough riders, defensive teams, great coaching. Thibodeau versus Spoelstra.
Josh Hart versus Jimmy. I hope we get to see a lot more of that.
The rise of Brunson potentially continuing, the supporting cast of the Heat playing out of their minds, shooting out of their minds right now. So
how do you think the Cavs feel that they jettisoned Kevin Love for nothing?
And
now he's like a key figure on the team, throwing outlet pass after outlet pass.
I didn't get that trade when they did it. I was like, why what?
They cut him, didn't they?
I know. I didn't get that when it happened. It's like, you're a contender. Why are you giving up depth and a veteran guy? It made no sense to me.
He wasn't playing a lot, and I think he wanted to play, but it's like, look at that. The bigs in Cleveland got abused, which is crazy. I didn't think they would, but they could have used Kevin Love's experience in offense. They didn't have any offense.
The guy to space the floor, hit some threes.
Outlet passes.
There was like 5 or 6 minutes of the game last night, and to be fair, it was during his, just like Aaron Rodgers moment where he couldn't stop throwing dimes, but he was doing other stuff too, where I just kind of I zoned, or I like narrowed in on him for 5 or 6 minutes of the game, and I was just watching what he was doing. Veteran savvy is a thing, man, and like his stats might not have shown that much, 4 or 5 assists, 4 or 5 rebounds, whatever. That's great, but he was like boxing guys out, and like he was doing that thing where someone starts driving in and he like gets a guy sealed and just starts backing him up until he's completely out of the play. He did that on like 4 or 5 straight plays where it was because of him that scores happened, and it was during that time where they built a lead from like 1 to 9, and the game was pretty much over from there.
Yeah, last two series that we haven't talked about, and then we can make our predictions. The Sixers and Celtics playing right now. Celtics up 2. The 76ers playing them pretty tough in game 1. Harden with 42 points with 5 minutes left in the fourth, going off, finding his old Houston self. And then later tonight at actually just in about half an hour, we got the Suns and Nuggets game 2. Let's I guess we can go ahead and make our predictions so we can talk about this a little bit more. Start with the Suns and Nuggets. I picked the Phoenix Suns going into this series. We all made our predictions. We all texted them to each other before the second round started so that there's no squirrely stuff going on. But yeah, I predicted the Suns, and I gotta say, I'm already a little bit worried. The Nuggets looked like they were really good in game 1. The depth looks like, as everyone's saying in the media, the depth looks like it could play a real factor in this series. The Nuggets, one of the deepest teams in the league. The Suns, one of the least deep teams in the league. It kind of looks like KD and Booker are gonna have to play like insane in this series. They're gonna have to play like Kyrie and LeBron did back in the 2016 finals, average about 40 apiece and play make and not turn the ball over and, hit a good percentage of their shots to be effective in this series. But if Denver goes up 2-0 tonight, I think that's a wrap. I don't think that the Suns are going to be able to beat the Nuggets, 4 times in 5 games. I just don't see that happening. So I the Suns are my prediction, but I think the Nuggets are really taking it to them. They look like they're a contender. Jamal Murray, man, jeez, playing out of his mind right now. Bubble Murray is back.
Yeah, he's definitely not playing like Pube Murray, right? He, for those of you who don't know, he had a video leak about him, and yeah, you can go look at it.
What was happening in that video, Cole? Could you expound more on what happened?
I can't, but I can say that CJ McCollum once called KD's hair Jamal Murray's pubed. Anyways,
Damian Lillard's like, come on, man.
On to family friendly side of things. The Suns were my pick as well, but I need to see more out of DeAndre Ayton in guarding Jokic, and I need more rebounds, more energy. He's he calls himself dominating. I still want him on the Blazers, okay? But that game wasn't it, all right? That game wasn't it. I did not see a lot from him, and he didn't get Nurkic'd where he just gets abused so bad that it's cringy, but he was outmatched out there. So I think if Ayton brings it, the Suns can definitely fight way better than they did in that game. And I don't think if the Nuggets win this next game at home that the Suns are out of it by any means. I think this is a series full of veterans, and I think the Suns won't panic. They've got battle-tested guys down the roster. So I don't think that they'll panic if they lose game 2. They can still win their games and then, make it a long series. But I agree with you. I'm a little concerned about my pick of the Suns. Denver looks better than I thought. At the end of the regular season, they were really struggling, but now they're might be putting it together at the right time.
As I'm sure Riley is going to say, I'll just quickly throw that out there. They are a veteran team, but their veteran experience is collapsing in playoff series. I mean, all of them have had horrible collapses in the playoffs. up and down the roster, literally everyone. So I don't know about that not panicking thing, and we'll see how that pans out. But I think they all have a history of kind of panicking when they get down in a
They
series.
lost game one last series. Then they just wrapped it up pretty quick.
After Kawhi got hurt, it would have been a different.
As the only person in the group chat who did have the Nuggets winning this series, I'm feeling pretty good about that right now. I have long said that I do think Ayton is basically a more skilled Nurkic, and that's what he looked like. I mean, he was just getting destroyed by Jokic. 7 rebounds for Ayton, 19 for Jokic. Did he never learn how to box out? I mean, what is that? Like, he's huge and he can't grab a board. If he doesn't figure that out, they don't have a chance. And yeah, like Kirby was saying earlier, I mean, KD and Booker are going to have to score so many points to win a game because they didn't have a bad game. 29 and 27 on pretty efficient shooting, 63 and 53%. And they still pretty much got destroyed.
KD
So
had
they have to go back to
turnovers.
the drawing board. I know that they want to try to shoot a lot more threes, and we'll see in game 2. They might be able to get away with it by jacking up a lot of threes. But yeah, I definitely still have the Nuggets.
Yeah, KD had 7 turnovers, but I think really the point of attack is going to have to come where they're going to have to figure out a way to slow down Jamal Murray, and I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. I mean, they have, Chris Paul is the guy on him, and he's notorious for getting cooked by point guards that are bigger than him and
Torrey
a little bit
Craig.
taller and good shooters. Yeah, they could try to, switch some guys onto him, but that leaves a mismatch. Is he going to guard the 6'10" Porter? Is he going to guard the 6'9" beast Aaron Gordon? I mean, I don't know if all those guys are going to have, as good a games as they did in game 1, but there's some serious matchup problems for the Suns, I think. The second series in the West, Warriors and Lakers. We talked a little bit about that already and kind of hinted at it. I have the Warriors beating the Lakers. I've been a Laker doubter all year long. I actually didn't even have them getting out of the first round, but then the Grizzlies completely self-imploded, and but I didn't really think the Lakers looked that good in that series. I mean, I think the thing that won them the majority of those games was their role players. LeBron and AD didn't really have that great a series. It was like the Austin Reeves Hachimura show, and they just it was
Vanderbilt.
it was mostly their role players, and like AD and LeBron really didn't look that good to me, and I think that they're gonna have serious problems against veteran guys. They played the least mature team in the league in the Grizzlies. Now they're about to play the most mature team. What are you doing, man?
You're lucky this isn't 2 quick teas because I'm
Oh,
getting
you
technical.
Yeah, but they're playing the most mature team now. You got, AD is going to get matched up against Draymond, and you got Looney down there as well. That's going to give him problems. He totally owned Jaren Jackson in that series. I don't think that's going to happen in round 2. And yeah, I think that the Warriors will figure out a way to slow up some of those role players. And if they put it all on 38-year-old LeBron with an injured ankle and AD who disappears for huge stretches of games and again is always banged up, I think it's gonna be a rough series for the Lakers.
Well, I disagree with your kind of overall message on the Lakers. I do think the Warriors are going to win, but Anthony Davis on defense was dominant that series. You look up the block numbers in the playoffs, Anthony Davis has like over doubled the rest of the field. He had multiple games where he had over 5 blocks, and he was like locking everyone down. Guards, Jaren Jackson. He wasn't scoring a ton, but they didn't need to. They won the last game by 40. It's not like they were, and they were up huge in one of the other games too. I think that they looked really good, better than I thought they would against the Grizzlies. And yes, LeBron's age is concerning, and I don't think it's going to be enough to get over the Warriors. I'm picking them as well, but I think the Lakers played a lot better than I thought they would. And I think on defense, Anthony Davis was lights out, honestly. Like, he looked really good, shutting down the lane, protecting the rim, doing everything on defense.
I think it's pretty simple in this series. It's going to come down to Steph and LeBron basically. I mean, their role players are going to matter, of course. I'm not trying to minimize, the team aspect of it, but Steph, you said it earlier, Colton, Steph is apparently in his prime right now. I didn't know that was possible, but apparently, his prime is going to be 40. Whereas LeBron seems to be starting to slip a little bit. I mean, it's amazing what he's doing at his age and how many miles he has on his body. I think that he's actually really fun to watch right now, LeBron. And I'm looking forward to this series. But yeah, I mean, I just think that the Warriors, I mean, Steve Kerr is now like 19-0 in series against Western Conference opponents. And Steph is at the top of his game, apparently
Steph is 23-4 at all-time playoff series. It's the highest winning percentage, like basically amongst anybody. It's like 85%. It's like Kobe's in the 70s, Michael Jordan's like in the 70s. It's insane.
What's Bill Russell?
I'm not sure about him. I think he was also maybe in the 70s. He could be up there too, but I actually don't remember where he was. But point is, we're listing him among Bill Russell. That lets you know just how dominant he's been in the playoffs.
And it's the whole team. Like obviously the team has changed around them, but that core of Steph, her, Draymond, and Clay is still there. Clay isn't playing at the level that he did with the championships, but they've got some other really good pieces around him now too. And Steph keeps getting better. So yeah, I don't see them falling apart. So they're gonna have to get beat, because I don't think they're going to beat themselves. They
play with such a fast pace too, and I thought that there was quite a few times where the Lakers looked tired in the last series. LeBron and AD, they both looked tired, like the minutes were weighing heavy on them. And that was against, again, a completely undisciplined Grizzlies team that plays one-on-one, downhill Ja Morant drives, Jaren Jackson post-ups. It's like their offense. When you're playing against a Warriors team that's constantly making you communicate, constantly moving the ball around, screening around, making you switch, making you play defense for 48 minutes, they're going to have a tough task ahead of them. It's good, D'Angelo Russell is going to have to play big. I don't trust him to, win a series for them. They're going to have to get huge, minutes from continued play from Reeves and Hachimura and the role players. AD and LeBron just aren't going to be able to do it by themselves, I don't think. Moving on to the Eastern Conference, first matchup, we got the New York Knicks and the Miami Heat. I had the Knicks going into this one. Just historically, 8 seeds, usually kind of the fairy tale ends after the first round. It's pretty rare that an 8 seed gets all the way to the conference finals. But after game 1, again, Miami looks good. Jimmy, the rolled ankle, gives me pause, gets me a little bit concerned for the Heat. But I just like the Knicks coaching. I like their depth. I mean, it's a fairy tale run in and of itself that the New York Knicks could make the conference finals. But I'm going to stick with them. I like their Thibodeau. I think he'll figure out a way to slow up Jimmy enough. I don't know if the Heat, if they're just scorching shooting is going to continue. They were not a good shooting team in the regular season. They've been a great shooting team in the playoffs. We'll see if that continues. But it should be a fun series. I think this is, I don't think anyone saw this series coming, and it's been already a lot of fun. I expect it to be a good series.
6 words. Playoff Jimmy, don't give a F. Okay?
That's a lot.
He doesn't care. He's coming to destroy worlds. As long as his ankle's holding up, he by himself can carry Miami past the Knicks. I mean, I will say this. If the Knicks get Julius Randle back and he's healthy, that gives them another option to go to, because in the regular season, Julius Randle had a big year. I believe you said that you were turning around on him, Kirby, and that you thought he turned a corner. Hasn't been good in the playoffs, and the ankle has not held up. But if he comes back, it's tough. But with Miami stealing home court, if Jimmy's ankle is fully good and ready to go, man, they're tough to stop. And that's why I chose Miami going in, just because you talked about coaching. Miami has Spoelstra. Like you can't get better than Spoelstra. He'll win with, a mop, in the broom closet. It doesn't matter who he's got out there. All of their players are undrafted and they're still good. It's just because of his coaching. And yes, the shooting might be unsustainable in some areas. I also think Bam has not played as well. He had a good couple closing game in the last round, and I know Bam can provide more offensively, but he's that lockdown defender on the other end. I think the Heat are just too tough, too cohesive. If Jimmy's ankle is not there, then I reserve the right to say, okay, because that Jimmy is the Heat. But Lowry has played well. Love has played well. Gabe Vincent has played well. Everybody's played well, stepped up in absence of Tyler Hero, and I have the Heat.
Yeah, I still have the Heat. I think that, I mean, the way that Jimmy's been playing, I think he's probably going to come back based, pretty soon based on how he's been talking and his mentality. I think he's going to do everything he can. What will be interesting to see is just if he loses, a couple inches of elevation, a step off the dribble, because I think he's going to play. And if he's playing, he's at least going to provide a really great distraction. And that's basically how they won game one there at the end.
Decoy.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't know that they have the scoring without him playing at a high level. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think he's probably going to play through it for the most part and probably play through it at a really high level. And so I think that they'll pull it out, especially stealing game one. They have to get 3 more. That's a lot of games, but they just need a couple more heroic efforts from Jimmy and then for everyone else to step up. And I think they can pull it out. You mentioned Spoelstra, coaching a mop bucket, Kyle Lowry mop bucket. That's kind of been the same thing the last couple of years, and he looks good. He this year, this is the best I've seen Kyle Lowry look in a long time. At the end of last year, Pat Riley was about ready to send him off to Shanghai or something, and it's a very different story now. So happy for him. Good to see him playing well and apparently finding a good fit.
Yeah, Lowry actually didn't have a very good year, but he had a great game one. And his knee, I think he has pretty bad knee issues. I think he has pretty much chronic pain in his knee. But man, he made all of the clutch, heady plays down the stretch that really helped them secure that win after Jimmy got hurt. Last series, Philadelphia and Boston, all of us took Boston in this series. I think, with Embiid out, Embiid hurt, knee issues, he'll be out. He's out tonight and maybe in game 2. I think the Celtics are heavily favored. But right now, 4.6 seconds left. 76ers up 117 to 115.
Wow.
Harden with 45 points and 6 assists. Tatum 39 points, 11 rebounds.
Maybe it's not now, a sleeper.
The Philly has a guy at the line right now. He just hit the first and hit the second. They're up 119, 115. They just won the game. 119, 115. So they stole game one in Boston without Embiid. That definitely, makes it a series. Maybe we'll wake up from our naps and actually watch some of these games. Hopefully Embiid can come back and really, make this a series. If not, I think Boston will still probably win this one, pretty easily. But if Embiid comes back, if he can come back and even be a semblance of MVP Embiid moving forward, man, this could be a real series.
It's a big steal. That's a big game for them to take because that means that the Celtics are going to have to win some really tough games. Tough game on the road. Why is it that this series is so boring? I feel like everyone has felt that same way. This whole quadrant of the bracket, but there is a lot of talent on display there, and so I'm really interested to see who comes out of this series, and I'd love to see Jimmy Butler play either one of them. But I have the Celtics too because I just think that they have more talent, and also with Embiid, his injury issues, I'm worried that it's worse than they're wanting to let on because they're already talking about him not coming back for game 2 either. Before game 1 even tipped off, they were saying he might miss both of the first 2. And that sounds pretty serious. So I have my doubts.
Doc even said, because Doc has no filter, he always lets stuff slip more than he should. He even said the MRI didn't look good. What kind of an injury is not that bad that shows up on an MRI that doesn't look good? Like that does not sound good to me. So, I'm shocked that James Harden had 45 points. If you've watched James Harden in the past couple years, he has no burst, no lift. He still does his foul baiting thing where he brings his arms under the opposing player.
He only
and
shot
free
4
throws.
free throws tonight. He was 7 of 14 from 3, 17 of 30 from the field. So he didn't even do it at the foul line. He did it from the field.
That's what I'm saying. That's shocking to me, and I don't know if he can keep that up if Embiid's out for a while. Like
Gonna be
that's
tough.
that's amazing to me. Like he's seemed not washed because he's been a great distributor. He's the leading assist getter in the NBA. And but when you watch him, he's just slow. He's, does not look like the Harden of old. However, if the Celtics somehow manage to lose this series, they need to blow it up because you cannot have Embiid missing off the 76ers, for most of the series and lose. I'm just saying this would be an awful series to lose when you have home court advantage, the two best players on the floor, and you would lose this in the second round. I don't know. Just saying. Jaylen Brown has voiced his displeasure, kind of not displeasure, but he's kind of an odd guy. He's kind of in the Kyrie mold, and he's spoken in the media before about, they want to break us up. Well, this would cause some issues and ruffle some feathers. So keep an eye. Like if the 76ers somehow win this series without Embiid playing a large majority of it, I bet you there will be trouble in Boston. That's like one of my predictions. If they lose, keep an eye on them because
weird stat line for Jaylen Brown tonight. He had only 23 points on 8 of 10 shooting. I don't know why he took so few shots. Tatum was 14 of 25, but that seems like a weird, stat. If you're 8 of 10, why aren't you taking more shots? I don't know.
How many minutes?
42. We obviously didn't watch the game, so we don't know, what happened. Maybe something happened, but didn't really take over like it seemed like he could, like the stats kind of showed, and like he had the last few games, and he started off the first quarter really strong. So that's a little bit interesting. Just a quick note, it would be a disastrous for them to lose this series, but I am a little bit less on the blow it up if you lose one time bandwagon. It's like I'm less quick trigger, I guess, with blowing it up. If you can keep Tatum and Brown together, if they like want to play together, there's no issues between them. I don't know why you wouldn't try to keep those guys together for their entire career. It's like they're obviously going to win a championship at some point if you keep them together for long enough. But yeah,
I'm not saying I would blow it up. I'm saying there's been rumblings in the past, and keep an eye on some unhappy campers. And
obviously, like you said, egos and that sort of thing definitely play a role, so that could change things. But if you're management and if you're Tatum and Brown, it seems like you'd realize that like the grass is not greener on the other side. I'm playing next to one of the best players in the world. It seems like we've already been to a finals. We're like in our early 20s. It seems like there's bright things to come for them, regardless of what happens this season. But it would be disastrous to lose to Philly without Embiid.
Jaylen Brown is Kyrie Jr. I'm just saying. Have you guys seen what he wore on his shoes?
No.
In round 1, he wore shoes that were basically insinuating that Mayans were the true inventors of basketball, not James Naismith. Yeah, look it up. And if you're familiar with the Mayan sport, they played with human heads and threw them in baskets. And that's what Jaylen Brown was insinuating, that James Naismith should not be getting the credit.
But a white guy from whatever can't do
Canada.
that. He'd be appropriating. He'd be culturally appropriating. So all right, let's stay out of this. But
we brought it full circle to the conspiracy theories again.
Yeah,
Thanks, Colton. That's great.
Colton's back on the conspiracy theorists. So yeah,
Oh,
there are predictions for round two. After round one, I currently lead the prediction series. I have 6, right? Riley has 5, Colton with 4. So we'll see how that continues to develop. And we'll see you guys next time. I don't know if we're gonna be doing it next week. Riley, obviously, very busy. Colton, I'd be happy to do a one-on-one pod with you next week. But thanks for tuning in, guys, and we will see you next time.